Welcome to Aspen Leading Edge. I'm Patty Roberts from St. Mary's University School of Law. And today I'm very excited about our guest, Hari Osofsky. She is the Dean of Northwestern Pritzker School of Law and the Myra and James Bradwell Professor of Law. She also has an appointment as Professor of Environmental Policy and Culture. And today we're going to talk about some new roles she's transitioning to. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's start with welcome, Dean Osofsky.
Thank you so much, Dean Roberts. And it's just such an honor and privilege to be on your podcast. I want to take a moment as we start to just thank you for your leadership. You have done such tremendous work as Dean and continue to. And it's been such a wonderful honor and privilege to get to collaborate with you. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
Well, you have been a role model to me. You were a dean at Penn State before I was a dean, and you were one of the deans who was encouraging about me throwing my hat in the ring. So thank you for that and just modeling over these last 6 years for me what being a good dean is like and what being a good colleague, collaborator, and friend. Thrilled that you are looking at some new opportunities. I want to talk about that. But first, let's talk about you are coming off of 2 very successful deanships, 8 years of deaning, which is really long term in this day and age, 4 years at each institution. And I wonder if you can share with our listeners, what are some of the things you've most appreciated, valued about your experiences at each institution deaning in these last 8 years?
It's been such a tremendous honor and privilege to lead first at Penn State Law and the Penn State School of International Affairs and then at Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. And I think what I'm most proud of from the deanships at both schools is the collaboration that we've been able to build together in so many different ways. I've had the privilege of working with incredible leadership team and faculty and staff and students and alumni leaders at both schools, and also just interdisciplinary partners across our university and wonderful dean partners at different law schools. And so I think there's been so much that we've been able to build together, right? So it's been really exciting. I've done a fair amount of faculty hiring at both schools, and I've just been so proud of the outstanding people we've been able to recruit. But one of the things I'm also proud of is that at both schools, we did some innovative joint hires between the law school and other units at the university. At both schools, for example, the first joint hire with the medical school, at Northwestern with our Buffett Institute, at Penn State with engineering. And so it's been really exciting to create these sort of innovative ways we bring interdisciplinary knowledge together. It's been wonderful, as we've talked about a lot, to partner with the incredible deans, both at my institution, but also law deans around the country, as we've had to face unbelievably unexpected societal challenges like the pivots during COVID-19 and having this extraordinary group of colleagues around the country, colleagues at my institution, but also faculty and staff and student leaders who helped us think through how we do these kinds of pivots we needed to do in a way that was most supportive of the community. And one of the things that I've really appreciated at both schools is the ways in which our students have brought insights, right? So at Penn State, they helped us think about how to do the pivot. At Northwestern, they've helped us launch our LGBTQI+ clinic. They've helped us think about how to deal with the ever earlier law school recruiting in a way that's supportive of students. So I've really appreciated their leadership, and I've really appreciated the insights that our faculty and staff and alumni leaders bring and the ways in which we can work together to think about how do we move forward ambitiously at both institutions at a time where there's a fair amount going on in society. So how are we both thoughtful about supporting people in these challenging moments in society, but also really ambitiously move forward to build exciting new interdisciplinary initiatives, to hire amazing people, to support student success, to bring in incredible classes of students, right? How do we do all those things at once?
Well, you've done a tremendous job at both institutions. You have a great track record, and both institutions are wildly more successful as you left them than when you started. But here you are, having done 8 years of deaning, 4 years at Northwestern, and you've decided to step down. And so tell us a little bit about that decision and the exciting new director roles you'll be taking on.
So I think for me, I decided back in my 20s that I really only had 2 career goals. I wanted to leave the world a little better than I found it, and I wanted to do work that felt meaningful. And this really came out of, I think, the way I was raised and watching my parents and their values and their commitment to community. And so one of the things that I began to really reflect upon this spring as I watched this time of enormous challenge in our society, where there really are attacks in foundational ways going on right now on the rule of law, on higher education. And it felt important to me that I really lean into that substantive work, that it felt urgent to go back to working on rule of law and energy and climate change. And for me, as we face these foundational challenges to our legal system and justice, my sense of values and integrity made me feel like I needed to go and really figure out any way I could contribute.
So I have had the pleasure of being involved in the initial stages of the Global Rule of Law initiative that you will be directing. A Rule of Law Global Academic Partnership, I think, is the accurate name. And so please tell our listeners what inspired you to start this initiative, what sort of response there has been, and what your goals are for that partnership.
Absolutely. Well, so first of all, thank you for being such an incredible partner, both in this rule of law work, which feels critically important, but just more generally. I mean, as I've said, like these 8 years, part of the honor and privilege of these 8 years has been the friendship and collaboration and support of the other deans. And Dean Roberts, it's just, you're such a leader among the deans, and it's been wonderful to collaborate with you. So this Rule of Law Global Academic Partnership was really born this spring as we began to see these foundational rule of law issues. And I was trying to think about a way that was nonpartisan, that every dean at every law school could come together and be able to work on these issues. And as I was thinking about these issues, I also was thinking about the fact that these questions around rule of law aren't just U.S. issues, they're global issues as well. And so what I did was I just reached out to the U.S. law deans and to a number of deans around the world and said, would you like to collaborate on the rule of law? It feels like a really important time for us to be thinking together in a nonpartisan way about what it entails. I was really heartened to see just the rapid responsiveness. In just 2 or 3 weeks, we got to over 150 law schools around the world wanting to collaborate on this. And so we started to have a series of meetings to think about, what does that really mean? How do we translate this desire to collaborate into action? And so it became clear that we wanted to collaborate in 4 different kinds of ways: around research, around teaching, around programming, and around civic education. And as we've had more conversations, I think there's been a sense that while we want to do all 4 and we're going to start to move forward all 4, that there's a particular urgency around civic education, around thinking about how we as law schools can help people understand how our legal systems work in these different countries around the world. And so we came to consensus that there were 4 different areas we wanted to work on. First, judicial independence and separation of powers. Second, the role of lawyers and legal representation. Third, the role of universities and academic freedom. And fourth, due process. And so what we did was ask each of the deans who was involved to reach out to their faculty for who might want to participate. And so for each of these 4 areas, we have a number of faculty signed up from all over the United States and world, and we're about to launch those working groups. And so each of those groups is going to help develop research and teaching and programming and civic education around their topic. And then we also have a subset of deans that are thinking specifically about civic education together. And we've been in conversation with a number of judges who also provide nonpartisan civic education about ways we could partner there. I've talked to some military leaders as well. And then I think I also started talking in an interdisciplinary way to people who have expertise in media and social media to think about, when I was growing up, a lot of us were exposed to Schoolhouse Rock, which provided this very fun way of learning about how our government works. And so thinking about, is there a way for this moment and the ways people communicate that we could start to create some products that just help people learn about our legal system?
It's so exciting, and your enthusiasm is infectious, I have to say, when you're talking about this. Over 150 law deans from across the world. Where are they from? Do you have representatives from every continent? How many are from the U.S.? Just if you can give us an idea of that kind of membership and the power of this initiative worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that was really exciting to me is that we had deans sign up from every continent other than Antarctica, which doesn't have a law school. But yeah, we have 6 continents represented, a number of deans from the United States, and from a lot of different kinds of law schools in the United States, from public schools, from private schools, from a really politically diverse set of schools and states. We have a number of Canadian deans involved. We have a number of European deans involved. involved, including a pretty substantial contingency from the UK. We have Asian schools, we have Middle Eastern schools, we have African schools, we have Australian and New Zealand schools. So we really just have broad representation around the world of schools coming together to think about how we can bring our understanding from our different legal systems together to really collaborate in new ways around the rule of law.
Well, that is really impressive that that many deans have signed on from so many diverse places. As you're moving forward with these working groups, and I've seen the lists because I've added some of my own faculty, and there's just dozens and dozens of faculty members under each of these categories. And again, as we said, from all around the world. What do you hope the end results are from these groups and these initiatives?
That's such a great question. And because this is going to be such a highly collaborative project, one of the things I most hope is that it's something that we develop together, right? That it's something that the faculty involved helped to shape, the deans involved helped to shape, right? And so I don't want to be too prescriptive of exactly what the product looks like, but I would think that there's a few things that will come out of it. The first is I'd love for us, and we've had a lot of conversations in the deans group about creating something that's social media friendly, maybe videos that help share different aspects of the rule of law and these 4 topics that we're focusing on, right? So I think creating that kind of a product and hopefully helping it go viral. So something that I think people will appreciate and enjoy watching. I think also, though, one of the things that's so exciting about the schools involved is a lot of them have never collaborated with each other before. And frankly, I've long said one of the reasons I valued we've had substantial international programs at both schools I've been dean of. And one of the reasons I've always tremendously valued that is I feel like when you bring people together, they build relationships and friendships that can transcend some of our geopolitics, right? And so one of the things I really love about the collection of schools we have involved is it's from countries that maybe sometimes have geopolitical tensions between them, but that doesn't mean that the professors need to. And so I think we have real opportunity to create comparative research on the rule of law that hasn't been created before because we have partnerships, we have schools involved that I don't believe have partnered before. And so I'm really looking forward from an academic sort of scholarly perspective for us to create some new academic collaborations as well. And then I think one of the things that I loved in the Big Ten group this year, it's been a real honor to be dean at 2 Big Ten schools, and that has been a highly collaborative group of deans. And with a shout out to Richard Moberly, who led the charge for the Big Ten deans, all of the Big Ten deans collaborated to create programming on rule of law this year. And so I think we have opportunities among these many different schools to create some programming beyond just sort of a social media sense, but some programming on important topics to help people understand better, and maybe even some collaborative teaching between our schools. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to add value. One of the things we're really committed to is I'm a big believer that you don't reinvent wheels separately. So there's a lot of other really important work going on in this space. I'm about to head to Poland on Sunday for the World Justice Forum, right? The World Justice Project's been a real leader globally in all of this. There are important efforts already going on at the ABA and the AALS, our main professional association for law schools, and already things going on among judges and different groups. And so one of the things we're trying to do is catalog what's going on and connect with all of those groups so that what we do is additive and in collaboration and in partnership with other efforts beyond just this effort among our law schools.
So we've been meeting virtually so far. Do you envision that this is something that will have some in-person components? And also, is it your goal that students will get involved across the globe?
Absolutely yes on both. So we're having the deans have a few opportunities to connect in person in conjunction with other meetings. But the hope is by sometime this fall or spring, we're going to create a conference that's going to bring together not just the deans involved, but also the faculty from these schools and any other key institutional partners. And the idea of this conference is it won't just be a traditional academic conference. So we'll have some elements of a traditional academic conference of people presenting their research together on these topics and thinking about research collaboration, but it's also giving me a chance to bring people together in sort of working group mode to really think about sort of how we're going to create things together, right? I'm a big believer, as you know, in the importance of translating sort of ideas and statements into action. And so I think thinking about how we, in concrete and constructive ways, create action, I think having a convening like a conference where we do that will be really valuable to that effort.
So you had this idea, you had tremendous response when you put out the call globally, and you've decided to make this part of your next chapter in your professional journey. But you're doing it as a tenured chaired faculty member of Northwestern Law School. What sort of reaction did you get from Northwestern's leadership?
Well, one of the things that I've been really grateful for is that for both of the new things I'm doing, so this Rule of Law Global Academic Partnership, which we started this spring, but also this new Energy Innovation Lab that I'm going to be launching this fall, one of the things I've really been grateful for is how supportive the provost has been and the president has been around my bringing leadership that can help advance strategic goals of Northwestern as well. So both of these new initiatives I'm leading are connected into core strategic priorities of the university. And I have already been in conversations with a number of interdisciplinary collaborators as well. And it's been really exciting to talk to them about how we can work together, right? So, for example, with the Energy Innovation Lab, which is going to have focus on energy and AI, energy investment, and energy litigation as sort of its core initial focuses, I've already been having conversations with some of the key leaders of different relevant centers, institutes, initiatives at Northwestern, right? So, for example, I'm meeting not only with some of the key leaders in the environment energy space, but also in the AI space and data sciences space to think about how we can constructively collaborate. And so I've just been really grateful for, and also with our Buffett Institute of International Affairs as well, right? So there are just a lot of opportunities at Northwestern to, I think, build the kind of interdisciplinary collaboration that we need in both of these areas. And so I've been grateful both for the university leadership support, but also for the wonderful faculty leaders in these different areas and sort of their openness to thinking about how we build the collaboration.
And I'm glad you brought up the Energy Innovation Lab because that's the second prong of your next professional journey. You indicated it's going to start this fall and generally what it might cover. Can you get into a little more about what your goals are for that lab? It takes advantage of some of your outstanding interdisciplinary experience and seems like such a good fit for you. What is it that you hope and Northwestern hopes that that will accomplish?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have been involved with long before I was a dean, but also as a dean, has been how do you bring together, right? If we're going to really innovate in the ways we need to in energy, right? How do you bring together disciplines really broadly in ways that we don't always bring them together, right? So taking sort of law and business and social sciences and bringing them together with STEM, and then bringing these interdisciplinary groups of researchers together in a bipartisan way with leaders in business and law firms and government and nonprofits, sort of not just how do we produce this innovative cutting edge academic research, which is definitely going to be a piece of what the Energy Innovation Lab does, but also how do we find those win-wins? And I think there are a lot of win-wins often between environment and business that one can creatively get to if we get people together in a room, sort of the key leaders together in a room to think about how things move forward. So take, for example, energy and AI. Anyone watching the news knows that AI is moving very, very rapidly right now. But in particular, it's moving rapidly in the energy space in a lot of ways that have a lot of implications, not only for energy usage, but also for how our energy systems operate and how energy innovation is going to move forward. So, for example, just in the past few weeks, we've seen Meta investing in nuclear in Illinois. We've seen Bill Gates involved with a big project in geothermal. So it's clear that the energy demands, not just around AI, but data more broadly, are driving kind of all sorts of things around energy generation in ways that are going to affect energy investment, energy markets, and sort of what our energy future looks like, right? What emissions look like. And so there's both that really set of important questions, but also if you look at the way energy systems evolve, we know that a lot of the step changes that happen in the way energy systems operate aren't simply because of some regulatory change. It's because there's some technological breakthrough. Well, what will AI mean for the way we achieve technological breakthroughs, for the ways our energy systems operate? I think it is likely that AI will be involved in some ways in some of these next breakthroughs and step changes that will influence kind of how we produce energy, how we use energy, et cetera. So it's a really exciting and interesting moment to think about that. So, for example, I think about the ways in which years ago, hydraulic fracturing paired with horizontal drilling, what people refer to as fracking, really changed energy markets in important ways. We know that if we ever got to true grid scale energy storage, that would really change potentially sort of how we use different generation sources. And we can think about other places where that tech breakthrough might really sort of be a game changer in how we think about our energy system. So I think there's a lot of really exciting opportunity to bring together a very broadly interdisciplinary group of leading thinkers with sort of the key leaders to really think about how we move energy innovation forward in ways that are good for society, that they're good for business, they're good for environment, and they're good more broadly for society.
And again, nonpartisan, just deciding what's best in the energy sector and not depending on what the views are from either side of the aisle. When you announced the Energy Innovation Lab, what sort of reaction did you get from that? Have you had people responding and wanting to get involved and sharing collaborative ideas?
It's been incredibly exciting. I mean, I'm obviously one of the things I'm really focused on over this period of transition is supporting a really positive transition for the law school. I've had a chance to work closely with our incoming interim dean, Zach Clopton. As dean, I have a tremendous amount of confidence for the ways he's going to positively move the law school forward. So a big focus of the last few weeks has been on that. But I have had all sorts of people reaching out to me around both of these projects. And in the energy space in particular, people who are leading energy businesses, people who have major energy practices in law firms, people from different environmental NGOs, people from both sides of the aisle in government who I know, really sort of reaching out and thinking about, are there ways we can collaborate to move this forward? So I'm really excited. I've already had some people suggest ideas for things we can be doing this fall, and looking forward in a few weeks to sort of doing the official launch together with them. It's been really exciting, both around the rule of law and around this energy work, to have a number of really exciting collaborators talk about how we might work together, both at Northwestern and sort of, as I said, sort of leaders in these different institutions and spaces. So I'm really excited about what we can move forward together.
Well, you are an innovative leader, as you've proven as a dean at both institutions, and always with an eye towards interdisciplinarity. How do you see this new leadership role changing for you from your role as dean?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, one of the things that's been such an honor and a privilege about being a dean for the last 8 years is I think as a dean, you're thinking both about your institution, right? Your key stakeholders, and how do you support your students? How do you support your faculty, your staff, your alumni, and really, move the school forward in a way in alignment with values. And so I think that requires really understanding legal education and trends in legal understanding. It requires understanding how a law school works and thinking about, together with people, how you build things that do that. I think in these leadership roles, the focus is less on legal education and on these two substantive topics. And so I think it's not dissimilar in that, to me, the way you build meaningful things is you build really exciting collaborations that can move things forward. And so for me, one of the things that I'm excited won't change is that one of my projects is really about collaborating with other deans. And so even though I won't be part of the law dean community, it's been wonderful to have incredible colleagues, both from the United States and around the world, wanting to collaborate on this rule of law project. And so I think in that sense, it'll be the same, because so much of a really important set of the collaborations I built as deans has been with other deans. And so it's really exciting for that project in particular. I think for the Energy Innovation Lab, there will be opportunities to collaborate with deans, but I think it'll also be sort of a broader set of, and not dissimilar to some of the collaborations we built as dean, right? So for example, when we launched the West Coast Initiative at Northwestern, we were collaborating with leaders in business and government and all sorts of really exciting leaders outside the law school to create this experience for our students. And so I think some of that kind of building of collaboration will be the same. But I see the core differences is that the focus will shift from legal education to thinking substantively about rule of law and energy climate as kind of primary focuses.
Well, it's really outstanding. And if any of our listeners would like to get involved in either of these initiatives, how would they do that?
They're welcome to reach out to me. So my email doesn't change. I'm still at Northwestern. So people can reach out to me at my email here, which is Hari Osofsky, just my first and last names, at law.northwestern.edu. I welcome people who want to collaborate on either of these initiatives. And, as I said, I think in both spaces, we're going to make the progress that we need by working together. And so we have a wonderful set of collaborators now, and I really welcome people who want to be involved.
Excellent. Well, I hope that people will reach out to you. And it doesn't sound like you're getting much of a break after you step down from the dean position. So will you have a little time before you jump into these things?
Such a great question. I do plan to take a little bit of vacation later this summer after the official transition. But my thinking was that there's so much urgency around both of these things. So obviously when you've served as a dean, you have a sabbatical coming to you. And I do plan to take one, but probably in a year. It feels like there's so much urgency around both of these projects that I want to focus in on really getting them moving forward properly this year, and then plan to, and take some vacation, but plan to do a more formal sort of sabbatical in a year.
Well, I really admire you making this transition as a result of your seeing a need for greater involvement on the global scale with issues that are so important to you and your values. So I wish you the best of luck with these initiatives. I'm sure this is just the start. We will be hearing lots of things about the progress that you're making in both groups, and I'll be excited to be part of the Rule of Law Global Academic Partnership continuing moving forward. But before we move on, I wanted to ask the question that I ask all my guests, and that is, it is a tumultuous time for the rule of law and in legal education. It seems like every month or so there's something new. And so I'm wondering, do you have a prediction for the future of legal education and how it will change in the coming decade?
Wow, that is an important question. And I think one that's incredibly difficult to answer because we are in a time of so much change. Part of why one of the core focuses of the Rule of Law Global Academic Partnership is on both the role of lawyers in legal representation and the role of universities in academic freedom is that I think both are tremendously important and part of this 10-year future we need to map, right? I've always foundationally been a values-driven leader. And I think I thought a lot this spring about at every law school in Illinois as we begin, our students it's actually sitting behind me in my office, they take a pledge of professionalism. And part of the pledge of professionalism we take as we begin legal education is this pledge to advance justice, right? This pledge to act with integrity. And as I'm a member of the bar. And when you take a bar and you join a bar, right, first you have to pass that licensing test. But once you pass the bar and you become a member of the bar, we all take an oath to the Constitution. And one of the things that the Constitution does is it protects a lot of things, right? It protects a lot of these values we're talking about in the Rule of Law Initiative. It protects academic freedom at universities. And so I want to make an optimistic prediction, which is that while I do think there's going to be a lot of turbulence, and I know that we're at a time of great polarization. I mean, one of the things that's always been important to me, I think because I grew up in Kansas at a time when I saw Republicans and Democrats constructively working together, is something I wrote about in my energy partisanship piece, and it's why my work has always been bipartisan, is that I really do think that while it is an incredibly tumultuous time, and there are real challenges in very basic ways right now to universities and to law schools and to lawyers and to sort of our academic programs and academic freedom, I believe that we can build a collaborative community of people who have diverse viewpoints, but who share these core values of our oaths to the Constitution, of our commitment to justice, of our commitment to bringing forward our values with integrity and serving with integrity. And my hope is that we can have dialogue across our differences that allow us to find a really positive and constructive path forward. So certainly I have watched with great concern, obviously have at times talked about my concerns with some things that I see that aren't in line with my values. But I really have faith that we can come together as a legal community, as a law professor community, as a law student community, as a set of academic leaders, that we can come together and really find a constructive path forward. And so my hope is that it's been a difficult thing to decide to step down because it's been such an honor and a privilege to lead these wonderful schools, to work with all of you. But my hope is at least to contribute my little piece in these substantive areas in collaboration with all of you to move things forward. And I think if people do that together, the future can be bright. I will say that, I focused a lot on polarization and partisanship, but I do think that these technological changes and the ways that AI is going to reshape the way we teach and learn, the way we practice law, the way so many things in our society functions. I've often said that as much as there are these challenges around the ways we disagree, I think thinking it is both a challenge and an opportunity to think about these kinds of innovative ways that we need to move forward as technology changes. And so I do also think that one of the ways it's going to look different over the course of the next 10 years is the ways in which we constructively interact with this technological change and look at what that means for how we work, for how we teach, and for the future of our profession. and society.
Well, your vision is inspirational, as is your optimism. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about the start of the Energy Innovation Lab and the Rule of Law Global Academic Partnership, both projects that you will be directing at Northwestern. And congratulations on 2 very successful deanships in 8 years, which is like such a long tenure these days in law deaning. Congratulations as you move into these new roles.
Well, thank you for your kind words. And thank you again for your leadership and your partnership and your friendship. The world is a much better place for all of the tremendous ways in which you contribute, Dean Roberts. And it's been an honor and privilege to get to talk with you today.
You're very kind, and right back at you. Thank you, Dean Osofsky, and have a great rest of your summer.
Thank you. You too.